Hello and welcome to the circus.
My game with the cinema, with the big picture, rhyme letters like the holy scriptures. Looking at the sky, got the scoop like the Big Dipper, white ripper, head ripper. About to kick it off like a slipper, cold flow like the winter master, like splinter net clipper. Proud to be the sender, far from a beginner. Homemade like grandma's dinner, always fat, never getting thinner. Deep thinker, cheap drinker, deep seeker, beat eater, bass beater, smoking mics like cedar. Third eye like a mind reader, beat feeder, take it to the cleaners. I never drag you through the dirt like the street sweeper.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is Wildcard Wednesdays. This is a special edition of the Fantasy Football Joker, where we sit down once a week with a content creator in the fantasy football community to ask them about their lives, what drove them to begin creating content, and so much more. Before we begin, please go join our community and become a content creator yourself if you want, or if you're just looking to interact directly with some fantasy experts or a joker. Please sign up to fantasyfootballadviceforum.com. Use the promo code JOKER420. Get yourself 10% off. Get access to all exclusive content, all kinds of awesome creators, including myself. And like I said, if you want to become a creator, you'll have a great platform to start out from day one, collaborate with others, and help promote yourself. And as always, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. Today, our very special guest, we are going defense with the Esteemed Outlaw, the Thunder from Down Under, Mr. Cahn Cotter. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this was a great invite to get, and a pleasure to come on and talk some IDP or defense or just fantasy football overall. Love the Stone Cold introduction as well. Can't go past the WWF back in the day. I think it was, Rory's War back then, so haven't watched it in a while. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we always start with the basics here. Basically, tell us about yourself and about your work and where we can find you.
Yeah, so pretty much based on Twitter at the moment. I'm probably going to look to expand or get back into it rather. I was doing quite a bit of fantasy football content two or 3 years ago. So yeah, just on Twitter at the moment, just with a few hot takes and analysis things here and there. But that's virtually about it at Esteemed Outlaw.
Okay, and how did you start, like, as a player first, and then, like, you said 2-3 years ago you were doing content. What got you into doing that?
So when I originally first started fantasy football, I was only playing Australian kind of sports fantasy football, so rugby league, rugby union, cricket and whatnot. And a mate put me on, said, "Do you want to join our league for the NFL?" Said, "I'll give it a go." Is anyone that loves fantasy football is. That was the turning point for me. And then from there, just I think looking back, why I got into IDP or defense, I remember JJ Watt was just having himself a day. I think he got 3 or 4 sacks, and I'm like, wow, like how cool would that be if you could get points for sacks and things like that? And I went researching and like, oh, look, this is actually a thing. So started
the whole other side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm like, this is awesome because in sports, like I love the defensive side of sports. Like I love how they. They've got to stop the points. And for me, that's what drives me to watch sport is defense. Like, how good are you going to be able to, stop this offense? And Patrick Mahomes' offense, like that's still probably the number one goal for most NFL up in that offense on a daily basis. I think the Titans did it a few times last year throughout their course of their games. But yeah, for me, it was that JJ Watt week. Why I got into writing, I think Joey the Tooth actually reached out to me. I was just doing some Twitter stuff as well. I think he was working for the IDP guys at that point in time. And he said, "Hey, like, are you interested in doing some writing or whatnot?" And I said, "Oh, I'll give it a go." So yeah, from there I was just doing some articles for the IDP guys and a bit of freelancing here and there. But then just had to step away from that for a moment or two and starting to ease myself back into it now.
Okay. So I usually loosen things up to start off. Let's go with an easy one. I've asked this before, but I'm curious because I almost want to say it's the first time I've gone international, but since I'm in Canada, technically every show I do is international. But dinner party. So you can pick any NFL guest from history. It can be commentators, it can be coaches, it can be players. Basically, you got to pick three dinner party guests, and then what is being served at your. I say dinner party. It's like you're having a couple chaps over for dinner. What's being served? Who are you inviting over?
So let's go. Probably number one for me is probably Dan Marino. He's kind of like my first NFL sighting, I guess, or understanding of the game through Ace Ventura. So yeah, Dan Marino's got to be there. Let's go. Yeah, I'll probably go IDP. TJ Watt. Let's go him. Love the energy he brings all the time. I think he'll be a good host. And let's bring the GOAT. Let's bring Tom Brady in. I think why not? I think he's got a few stories to share, and I'd like to look at some of those Super Bowl rings. His time in the game is next level. I think what you could ask him at the dinner table is very exciting. So, and I think he'd probably give Dan Marino a bit of shit for not winning any rings as well. So, yeah. So those are my three. What I'd probably serve. Geez, you'd have to look at the vegetarian side for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I don't know, a bit of couscous or something.
With the TV12 diet.
Yeah. And then, yeah, probably barbecue, ribs, and whatever goes for that. And then probably my favourite Australian dessert, a bit of sticky date pudding with butterscotch caramel sauce on the side.
Wow. It's like that's a whole shebang.
Yeah. That's the way you do it. You go all in and you enjoy it. I don't know if anyone knows what sticky date pudding is, but
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
So it's pretty much just a date pudding, a dessert,
Okay.
and then you pretty much, it's very easy to make, and then you have your butterscotch caramel sauce just drizzled over it, or I smother mine. But yeah, it's so good, man.
You know, the closest thing I can think of is it almost sounds like if a butter tart, like if you took the inside of it and then like made it's like, how is it served, like in a bowl or like
in a bowl? Yeah, in a bowl you cut it's a pudding, so you cut it, it's like a cake, and then you drizzle it all in your caramel sauce, and then you heat it up, and then it's just spongy, it soaks in all the sauce, and yeah, it's good stuff. Sticky date pudding. Google it. It's easy to make.
You've inspired me to hit the kitchen after this and find what I get for desserts.
Take you 10 minutes to make.
It's like, you know, it's a cheesy question, but it's like, it's a good question. Is what gets you on your grind? So, and this is just as much for life as it is for like fantasy football. It's like the days where it's like, I just don't want to deal with this. I don't want to do this. What gets you to push through on those days?
Yeah, I think many people have their down moments in life, but you know, to push through that, I mean, my two kids are certainly inspirations to me, and my wife with what she's going through at the moment is a massive inspiration to get up and do things. I'm usually pretty happy-go-lucky type of character anyway, so I'm always bouncing out of bed. You know, as long as I get my coffee of a morning, I'm pretty set. But yeah, I mean, those are the two inspirations, and just, you know, living life in general. I think, you know, just get outside and absorb the sun, and you know, it's just that little hard bit that you got to push through, and the rest of the day is fine for me.
And I've noticed that trend in a lot of your tweets, that you do embrace like the positivity, and I get that sense from you, and that's something that I really struggle with in life. Where it's like, I'm definitely more of a pessimistic person. And I always wish that I could be optimistic more. Sometimes I feel like maybe it's a me thing. And I'm just like, I'm too cynical. I'm too much of an asshole. But you know, it comes from like a place of negative self-thoughts. And it's easy to let outward negativity affect inwardly. And so like, you know, as as content creators and putting yourself out on Twitter, you went through a whole thing, obviously, with like the Scott Fishbowl thing. So in talking on that and touching on that, more just the side of like, how do you deal with negativity in general? Is it like duck off a water's back for you, or shit?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've been through a lot of life struggles. Look, I mean, I don't really want to touch on what Scott Fish did. He's tremendous throughout the community. I think it was just a really miscommunication that got brought on. Total respect to
more the back, not from him, more just the backlash that. Like,
look, I mean, mate, you know, that's Twitter for you. You know, the only real concern there was I did have a legitimate threat from someone very close to home that I did have to report. So for me, that was probably the main concern. But other than that, you know, it was, you know, it's going to take a lot more than that to knock me down. Like I work in financial hardship as a counselor and advisor. So I hear a lot of stories every day about, you know, people going through hardship, family struggling because, you know, all of a sudden dad's got cancer or, you know, someone's died in the family. So even me on a background level, like it's, you know, I'm rock cement in my mind. So it takes a lot more to break me than, you know, a few comments coming over Twitter. In saying that, the outreach of support that I also had was tremendous. I had, I think, over 200 messages just that day saying, "Hey, mate, hold your head high. You've done nothing wrong." Others just saying, "Hey, probably miscommunication." Others saying, "Mate, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, we're here for you if you want to chat." So it was, you know, overwhelming. I think it took me a good week and a half just to get through everyone who private messaged me through, you know, WhatsApp or just through sleepers or through the actual Twitter DM space. I had to go through a lot of negative ones too. But look, you know, it is part and parcel of.
I wanted to really bring it up is because I always say that like fantasy football at the end of the day, the best part of it is community. And it's just being able to interact with people like we all have like this silly love for sports and for football and for NFL. And I think like fantasy football and analytics sometimes can override like the human element.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love seeing that you did get like that outreach and support after the fact.
Yeah, it was hand in hand. It was actually probably a lot stronger than what I thought it would be as well. But it came in really good, and you know, all those that reached out to me, a lot of people that didn't even know me reached out to me. People that weren't following me, obviously. It was just great to hear that community spirit, which is, you know, it's kind of the reason why, you know, you stick around and you love and do what you do. So for me, didn't really affect me too much. The only real concern was that legitimate threat that was pretty close to home that I had to take to the police. And it wasn't a good feeling, that's for sure. So it got dealt with and feeling in a much safer location now for my family. So.
And I think you put it into perspective, like you said, with your job, like, you know, unfortunately you see people when they're at real lows in their lives.
Oh, yeah.
Comparatively to like a silly fake sport at the end of the day or like a game that we all play.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it is, it's easy to get like, you know, caught up in it, but at the same time, like it really doesn't matter. And I think that is like, you're so right that like, you know, life overtakes fantasy football. But like, you know, we'll lighten the mood up here a little bit.
Yeah.
Real deep and heavy.
No, that's fine. I don't mind.
You're a day ahead of me, right? It's Sunday where you are.
Yeah, Sunday here, Sunday morning.
Okay, so technically, if you could walk through the screen right now and be here, you would time travel.
I'd go back in time.
So, in that regard, I've got a long form question. I made this one specially just for you because of exactly what we just said. So, congratulations. You have invented the world's first time machine. And however, though, due to your limited knowledge of advanced quantum mechanics, the machine does have some minor flaws and limitations. So first, you can only travel backwards in time. You cannot go to the future. Second, the machine imbues like this strange immortality upon you so that you feel pain, but you cannot die. And when I say cannot die, I mean in the sense of like, even if you were chopped up into tiny little pieces, set ablaze, your dust would inevitably just remain until one day it reformed at the time of your birth. The nature of how that works is still rather mysterious, but you would basically unknowingly live your life over again until you invented the time machine and then went back in time. And it would be like, that's the circle. You know what I mean? So that becomes like your thread. So if, however, you manage to live until the moment of your birth, you would somehow manifest as the form of your infant self, but with the knowledge previously attained in your life intact. Again, how this works is unknown. With these stipulations in place, how far back in time would you travel and where would you go?
Can I go past my birth? Like, yeah, like I mean, I've actually thought of this question a lot. I love history, so for me, I'd go back to the dinosaur Jurassic area. That'd be awesome. See what the dinosaurs were like.
But what if you get stepped, like you get there and literally
Yeah,
like
but I can't die.
stepped on by a dinosaur, and now like 65 million years has to pass, and you're just like pop up again. You don't know what happened, and now you're just that's your loop now. You're Groundhog Day.
Oh, I don't know. Can we simplify it? This where would I go back in time? In a time machine? I don't know. Look, I mean, even like being a history connoisseur, I mean, I love anything Australia history. So going back to where the First Fleet were here, or even Captain Cook came to Australia just to see the landing, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, going through a bit of war history. So would love to go back to see what World War One was actually really like for the soldiers. Civil War, would love to go see what the Civil War was really like for the soldiers. Yeah, I mean, anything going back in history.
I think those do make more sense in the sense of like, even if you're at war, it's like you can get shot and like blown up and take shrapnel. It's like as long as you don't like full on lose like really like get exploded from the inside or anything, like you're like Wolverine basically. Like you're gonna troop on. And they're just going to be like, how did this dude live for like 200 years? And then you get to keep the knowledge. And then when you're born as a baby, now you are the ultimate better because you know the outcome of every Super Bowl that's going to happen for like the next your whole lifetime, basically, however long you've lived.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Look, I mean, I love war history, so going back to war, but I mean, even in Australia, I think, to be financially better off, understanding the locations. I know, the few generations before mine, they had it quite good in Australia because they had a lot of eastern seaboard to buy holiday houses and property at very cheap costs. Sometimes $30,000, and that property now is worth 4.5 million. Like, so getting there and probably buying title deeds or something as well for those pieces of land is something that would probably be done as well.
So I don't know if this is a real thing. You would probably know better than me. Canada and Australia have a shared history in that, and this is just again what I loosely learned, and I don't even know if it's accurate, but essentially Canada at one point in time, we were sending prisoners to Australia. Like when we would we'd have real bad prisoners, we'd put them all on a boat and send them to Australia, which sounds like the dumbest fucking idea ever because it's like Canada's frozen half the time and we're sending these assholes on vacation basically.
Pretty much.
It's and that's part of not what started on, but that was part of what helped build those first communities in Australia because the prisoners would get there and it's we kind of need the manpower, so it's if you guys just work and do shit, you cannot be prisoners anymore.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to the convict history as well. through the first fleet when they got here. There's always the old joke between England and Australia that you sent the convicts to paradise. So it's an interesting history because when they first got here, they're made to do a lot of manual labour through bush, but because Australia is so vast and massive, a lot of these convicts escaped. They just ran off and were never seen again, kind of a thing. But
okay.
Look, the communities here. I mean, if you even go through old Sydney town and look at the old buildings, you can see a lot of the history there. Where a lot of the Aboriginals used to have the shellfish mounds, or I think you'd probably call them oysters or something, but and they used to smash these shells up to create the concrete for the mud between the buildings to hold the buildings up. So if you go through Sydney, you can see all these old oyster shells throughout the old mortar, through the bricks that they built. So and that's all convict labour. So.
Man, so it's just it's crazy like how the two things are like so far remote and so tight. It's because like me in my head, like I picture Australia almost on the other side of the world, but then it's like no, like you look at the globe, they're next to each other basically.
They're next to each other. You got to wonder why we've got to fly from point A to point B, the long way around. But look, there'd be something there that stipulates we have to do that. So, it
makes no sense. Like we should.
I'd love to get to Canada. Yeah, Canada would be awesome to go travel one day.
I'd love to go there. Like I'm not a warm weather guy, and your animal life definitely terrifies me. But
it's not as bad as what everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah, but when you see the picture online of like the spider as big as your head, it's like that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, they're normal. They're actually quite normal here. Like we see a lot of spiders, but you just you understand what are the dangerous ones from a very young age. And you see a big spider, you just say, oh, let him be, kind of thing. He'll leave you alone if you leave him alone. And we very rarely jump to big spiders. They're called huntsmen, and they grow massive, but they're actually really good for the environment. So you understand to leave them alone.
Oh man! So we'll go back in another silly question here. I got.
Let's do it.
All right. So you meet. It's Sydney is like the city there in Australia, like the main one.
Yeah. Well, Sydney, there's Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. I'm in Brisbane at the moment.
Oh, okay, you're in Brisbane. Is that okay? So
up north.
You meet a wizard in whatever is downtown Brisbane. I don't know the geography there. The wizard tells you he can make you better at fantasy football if you pay him money. When you ask how this process works, the wizard points to a random person on the street. You look at this random person. The wizard says, I will now make them $1 better at fantasy football. He waves his magic wand. Ostensibly, this person doesn't change at all. As far as you can tell, nothing is different. But somehow, when this person tells you their sleeper list, it's suddenly a little bit more appealing. The tangible difference is invisible to the naked eye, but you can't deny that this person's hot takes about fantasy football are vaguely sexier. The wizard has a weird rule, though. You can only pay him once. You can't keep paying him and giving him money until you're satisfied. You can only pay him one lump sum up front. How much cash do you give the wizard?
Geez, not much. Give him a 10-cent coin. Oh, look, I mean, this is what makes fantasy football great. I mean, it doesn't matter who you play with. He can make anyone better. He wants to make better. But at the end of the day, it's about fun and what you view are your sleepers and what you view as your roster lineup. And that's what makes it great, is we all have different opinions. Some succeed, some don't succeed in that year. This is why Dynasty is actually the best form of the game to play. So, look, for me, I wouldn't give him that much money, Mr. Wizard. Sorry. It's at the eye of the beholder what fantasy roster is actually good, because even that person who gets made smarter, I still may have a different opinion of what is viewed as his sexy takes aren't so sexy to me. How's that?
I think that's good. I think it shows confidence that like at the end of the day, it's like no matter what your process is, like it's still like it's luck based, and I think that's the truest thing, and why it's so silly when people get like so up in arms about like analytics and everything, and like I hit on and this goes even into like intangibles of like and this leads into my next question of like the reason I adopted the moniker of the Fantasy Jokers because I'm not the spreadsheet guy and I never will be. I very much play with my heart first. Like the reason I hit on Jamal Williams last year in so many leagues was because I saw Hard Knocks and I was like, this is a heart and soul glue. Like they're gonna lean on him when the going gets tough kind of guy. When it's like backsides are tight, palms are sweaty. You need like the guy that's just like you can rely on him.
Yeah,
and that's what Jamal Williams was to that team last year. So I was so disappointed that they actually let him go. I was like, it makes no sense to let him go and then bring in David Montgomery for basically probably the same price.
Yeah,
but
no, look,
it's getting into my values of like where I'm kind of like loosey goosey with that kind of stuff bleeds into my playing style. Do you recognize values that you have in your life that also bleed into your playing style?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you that like for me, I'm not really analytic based. I do spreadsheets and all this stuff for work through the week with finances. So to be able to step away from that and just go with your gut feeling is great for me. So what determines value for me? I base it off fun and I have a gut feeling and that's how I play. Some people that I play with are like, what are you doing? I remember the best story I had was a few years ago. And it was, I think Darius Guice was a Washington Redskins running back. And I think he got made suspended or something. I can't go back that far. But I had Antonio Gibson on my roster and he was actually a WR at that time. And I kept saying to everyone, like, I've got the Washington running back here. Like, don't worry about it. And they're trying to add and predict who's going to be the Washington running back. I said, guys, I've got him. And they're like, who? And I'm like, well, it's Antonio Gibson. It's going to be Antonio Gibson. He's the one you want. And I got that much backlash from it. And then when season rolled around, and I had him and James Robinson in my roster, and I just picked them off waivers really early in the year. That was the best thing, and that was a big confidence moment for me as well with fantasy football. Just through research and things that I was doing to back yourself, go get your guys and see what comes of them.
Yeah, I do that, but my problem is I can't really brag about my guys because I tend to make so I do this thing all the time, and especially in dynasty leagues, I make pretty bold trades. Where most of the time, I would say at least 80% of the time, people look at my trades and they're like, oh, you overpaid. And it's like, yeah, but I got Mahomes and Kelsey stacked. So I don't care what I paid.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, I go out and make crazy trades too. Sometimes I give a lot to get what I want, and sometimes I'm a bit more reserved. But, I think at the end of the day, like my nature's really happy-go-lucky. I'm always there to help and understand and spread, positivity through my work as well as on the outside and be a role model for my family. So for me, sometimes you win a trade, sometimes you lose a trade. Everything goes hand in hand. And that's the way I play as well, Jack. So I mean, that's why I think we get along really well. Just off the bat, I think we're just the same people in different countries at the end of the day.
Well, I'm kind of an idiot. I would think that you're a little bit smarter than me, to be honest. But
I have my moments. Don't worry.
I've seen a lot of your takes, and I think like they're my takes definitely, like I said, they tend to be like I like people just because their name. Like this year, one of my favorite sleepers has become Puka Nakua, just because I love to shout Puka Nakua.
Yeah,
I literally just want him to score so I can do that as many times as I can watching Red Zone this year.
Yeah. I probably don't go that far, but I don't know. Look, Last year, I think.
I've got another silly question for you. Sorry,
Sure, let's go.
Let's
do it. Let's do it.
I asked this one on another episode, but it was I had asked an American, and so the answer almost became obvious in that sense. And so I'm curious to see what you would answer.
Okay.
All right. So, defying all expectations, a group of Scottish marine biologists capture a live Loch Ness monster. In an almost unbelievable coincidence, a bear hunter shoots a Sasquatch in the thigh, thereby allowing zoologists to take the furry monster into captivity. These events happen on the same afternoon. That evening, the president announces he may have thyroid cancer and will undergo a biopsy later that week. So this is the American president. We'll stick with the American president in this situation. You are the front page editor of what would be comparable to the New York Times, but in Australia.
Just probably the Australian.
Okay, so you are the front page editor of the Australian. What do you play as the biggest story? Are you going with Loch Ness, Sasquatch, or the president?
Man, I'm going Sasquatch straight away.
Sasquatch over Loch Ness. So yeah, that's what I was like. I was curious because I felt like Loch Ness is more local for you guys because it's like Scotland and in Europe and like that whole thing. I feel like Sasquatch is like a North American thing. But
so we have. I mean, the urban myth still in Australia, like they're called yowies here.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had the little chocolate, the yowie chocolates from Cadbury.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's like the Australian version of
the same thing. Like a yowie is just like
it's a bigger. Yeah, they say it's a bigger version of the Sasquatch. They're much larger, and they're all through you see sightings or you hear about sightings on the Gold Coast or. Which is a very bush hinterland region in New South Wales around the Blue Mountains area. So look, and even in Aboriginal folklore, they talk of the hairy man in Australia being the yowie. So
there has to be all kinds of crazy urban myths with going on there in the outback.
Yeah, they have these other ones called So
like a lot of it is still like wild and undiscovered. Is that?
A lot of the outback is, yeah. I mean, even a lot of the Northern Territory, Northern Queensland, WA. I mean, because they're so big, there's just parts of it you can't get to. It's very remote. You can get to, but do you want to go to? There's a plant in North Queensland that can actually kill you if you touch it. So. It's an unforgiving country, mate. You don't want to get caught out.
So, like in Canada, like our wilderness can be very unforgiving in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But like the like you said, a plant that you touch and you die, like no. But it gets very, very fucking cold, and especially like people always assume like because Canada is fucking massive. Like the actual land mass is insane.
Yeah.
But like 80% of the population lives right along the border of the states for, a couple reasons. Obviously, weather is the biggest one, but the other one is that the more north you go, the more it's just like Canadian wilderness. So it's just fucking like boreal forest as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
You get lost in there. There's no getting out. Good luck finding your way. And then like once you go past that, it's just like that's the caricature version of Canada where it's like Eskimos living in igloos and like that's real shit. But that's like once you get up to like Northwest Territories and Yellowknife and Whitehorse and that shit. So it's like ours is unforgiving, but it's like it's very much like they're polar opposites, quite literally. Both where they are geographically based and then like how for us like it's exposure to cold, for you guys it's
heat
and everything else.
Humidity and the elements you're up against them. Moving to Brisbane recently, just discovered the humidity, like the real humidity of Australia. I'd felt it before, but that, you kind of don't go outside most days in summer. Like, you'll go outside and swim in the pool, but that's about it. You have the aircon on, you kick around the house, and you wait till it cools down at, it's kind of nighttime to venture out. So.
All right. Sorry, I'm
No, that's okay.
All right, I got one more silly one for you, and we'll wrap this up and get you on your way, because I know you got a lot of shit that you got to get done, because it's morning there for you. Yeah,
Sunday with kids, mate. You got to get them outside.
I was gonna say it's morning there for you. For me, it's 8:30 at night. My kid is off now, so I have split custody. But in the sun, it's kind of a weird kind of split where it's like I pick up more of the slack during the school year, and my ex takes a lot more of like the summers. So like I don't have my daughter as much this summer. That's why I'm like doing a lot more work now, getting it in while I can. Because once we go back to the school year, it's like I honestly don't know how I'm going to keep up with this, but I'm going to try. Yeah, it's just like it's a whole thing. The kids, man, it's like it really like
full-time job.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, and it changes you in so many ways. And but with you, like, and I've had this discussion before. I was going to get in a silly question, but actually, just like about fatherhood, because you. And like so you're with your wife, you're still with your wife, and you guys have been together, had kids, and blah, 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 blah. So it's like you're on the grind full time. There is no breaks for you.
No, none for me. I mean, it's pretty more full on for me. Like, my wife was involved in a car accident 2.5 years ago. Had a pretty significant injury, so we, I'm always with the kids 100%, and we make sure she gets cared for at home and things like that. So. And that's upon working full time as well, and financial hardship. So, I mean, for me, I've definitely got to keep that positive vibe going about me. I can't, and that's what go back. It's going to take a lot more to break me, because what I'm going through personally and what I give to others personally to help them through their struggles. It takes a lot to break me down.
Well, and it shows, though, that you're a strong person and that you are the glue that ultimately they're leaning on. And it's like, so I totally get that. But it's like, I respect that even more. Like, I feel like I almost like, because I do like, because I'm remarried, and we don't subscribe to a lot of like, I guess what you would call gender norms. And it feels like you are very much that way too, where it's like, we are picking up the slack in terms of like cooking, cleaning, child rearing, the whole thing, right?
Everything.
And I feel like I get too much credit to where like someone like you, who's like literally like fucking day in, day out punching in that clock, like that's a grind that never stops. And so I always have respect for that. And I just
thank you.
Like, shout that out.
Thank you.
Man, like that's more than in anything else in life. It always comes back to family, and I respect like the men who put in that grind.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you commit to, and we're fully supportive of what's happening at the moment, and we understand and we accept what's happening, and that's the first thing about getting on with it, is just accepting what it is, and working ways, and on a daily basis to get through anything in life. For me, this is kind of why I tune back into fantasy football. It's kind of like my little outlet to get away from a moment or two, get some peace and quiet, and have some fun with the boys. I have some fun with the community, and share the positivity that I exude on my world, and give it back to a little bit too. So it's just part and parcel of what goes on every day, and I wouldn't have it any other way, man, because I love my family to bits.
Absolutely. So I got one more silly question for you. And
let's hear it. Let's get it.
We'll wrap some things up with some shout outs, get you out of here, like I said. So, and I'm interested because, again, I feel like most people, and I'm counting myself in this, would pick one option, and I'm curious to see if you'll take the other or not. So
All right,
here
let's
it
do
is.
it.
For whatever reason, 2 unauthorized movies have been made about your life. The first is an independently released documentary, primarily consisting of interviews with people you know and bootleg footage from your actual life. Critics are describing the documentary as brutally honest and relentlessly fair. This is like the creme de la creme. This is like the documentary of the year. Okay? This shit's getting awards, man. People are crying watching this shit, all right? Meanwhile, Columbia TriStar has produced a big budget biopic about your life, casting major Hollywood stars. It's produced and directed by Michael Bay, and it has you and all your acquaintances. Though the movie's based on actual events, screenwriters have taken complete liberties with the facts. Critics are split on the artistic merits of this fictionalized account. It's kind of getting bad ratings in the Rotten Tomatoes, but audiences love it. Which film would you be most interested in seeing?
Oh man, look, I'm a pretty honest person. I'd go the documentary for sure. I think say it how it is, tell the story how it is, and that's the way life should be, man. There's no need to fantasize or fictionize anything in life. Yeah, just be yourself and say it how it is, and I think that's what people will end up respecting you a lot more for.
I appreciate that, and that's the exact answer I was looking for. Because everybody else that I've ever asked that question has gone big budget movie, and
Oh,
mine
really?
included.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm a big movie head, and I can tell you, like, I wish that I could be like, yes, I love the art house movies more, but I definitely do not. I grew up a '90s kid that was allowed to watch rated R action movies way before I should have been allowed to. So, like, to me, like, I like the pomp and the circumstance, and I grew up with the WWF and the Attitude Era, so it was like
Mm,
between those two things. Unfortunately, I find myself also being like, yeah, give me the big budget TriStar movie. I don't even need it to
yeah.
be remotely accurate. Like, let Kevin Hart play me in the movie. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean,
All right.
I'd like to watch that one too, but nah, it's just not the type of person I am, man.
No, and I appreciate that, and I could sense that in you, and that's why I threw that question in. I actually pivoted from a different one that I was going to ask, but we'll wrap things up here. This is basically my last question for you. Is right here.
Is this the dagger?
Shout outs. I always ask for shout outs. Who are your favorite content creators in the space right now? Who are you following, using for advice? Who are you just like what they're doing? Shout out some content creators.
Yeah, so let's go with my man Iggy, IDP Iggy. I think what he does for the IDP community and this charity event that he's holding every year, I think, I'll absolutely support everything he does. He's just a great character, and I think you probably had a chat with him as well. But
Yeah, he's a
that guy
dude.
just oozes positivity,
Absolutely second
and
that.
he's just I think to associate yourself with positive people, it brings the best out of you as well. So I love Iggy. My next one, I'll go with another charity event. He's trying to get it up and running at the moment. My fellow Australian, Daniel, his Twitter feed's outbeard _82. He's got the True Blue charity event going. It's actually just started today. But this is just, I think there's 2 or 3 leagues maybe he's got at the moment, but he's looking to grow it. Putting him on the map. Another charity event that supports mental health and well-being for men. So all proceeds go to that. Give Joey the Tooth shout out. He gave me a lot of confidence to keep going in the IDP game. Alex the Guru, Dynasty Guru, I love him. He's awesome. I could shout out for days, mate. If you want IDP rankings, Master IDP, he's another one. Leo, I think he just got a good gig actually writing for. Off the top of my head, I can't think who they are, but He joined a crew pretty recently, and he's growing. So he's a number one ranker in IDP. So he's one to tag on to as well, Master IDP.
Nice. And I always ask, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you reading? So like one movie or TV show, band or song or thing that you're listening to, and a book if you happen to be reading.
So I mean, sports. I love sports. At the moment, I'm watching the Ashes Test cricket series. It plays at about 8 p.m. through to about 2 a.m. here, through 5 days over the course of the Test match. So I do that. If I'm watching TV shows, I always go back to my old favourites. So I mean, love The Simpsons, love The Office, Vikings.
That's a good one. Vikings is one that unfortunately, like after Bjorn's ascension, I kind of fell off, and I don't think I ever watched the last season.
I always say watch up to season 4, you're good. With Vikings,
I pushed only because of Bjorn. I liked him a lot, so I was like, I want to see him like take over. But then once that happened, I was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. What am I listening to? Geez, I love country western music. I love all types of music actually, but Slim Dusty is someone that I listen to a lot. I've been listening to a lot of John Denver of late. You probably saw one of my tweets out. It's got inspiration from Country Roads, that one there, with the roads leading to one way. So yeah, look, most of my tweets come off inspirations that I'm doing. Books I'm reading. I mean, I read Bluey all the time to my kids, so they love it. I don't really get to read too much these days, unfortunately. It's always kids' books.
So hard because my kid's like older now. She's 10, and I missed out on the whole Bluey thing. And I had her on a lot of like the 90s shows that I was watching. Like she was in the Bubble Guppies and Paw Patrol for a little bit, but the one that really hit with her when she was young that I loved was Big Comfy Couch. That's
never heard of this one.
I grew up on that. Oh, it's a real old show from I think it was filmed in Canada even. They used to run it on Canadian television back in the day. It's like that was one that I grew up on, and it's like, and I think back in my day too, is Blue's Clues was like the big thing.
Blue's Clues, I like Blue's Clues. I watched a bit of it.
So it was smooth, it was chill. They weren't yelling at you on the screen.
Yeah, Curious George is another one. I think when it comes to kids shows, that my son will just sit there watching Curious George, and if we ever want him to settle down, we just put it on for him, and he's just chill. So that's a good little take. But Bluey, man, I mean, I even watch Bluey. I wake up and watch it. I love it. It's great.
Man, well, I'll let you get back to your family. I super appreciate having you on. I know it was like a big time crunch and everything, so I'm so happy that you were able to make it. And as always, thank you everybody out there for joining us. Make sure you go follow @Esteemed Outlaw, and as always, catch you on the flip side.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Spit rhymes tighter than zip ties. A fist fry, pussy rappers a lip dye. You animated like hentai. My energy fortifies. A generator from my corn sharp, back precise. The bad bastard like my two competition like the Lancaster. Picking up the first one, the Dax hit the man after. Like John Wick and made a focus. But I'm sicker than off the Morgan dying of tuberculosis. With no treatment, with helpless, hopeless. A million ways to die in the West. So I'm going through your mind like a bullet to the head. Infected by the infection. Infected with the sickness. You motherfucking bitch.